And that is a really hard word to say if you've got a stutter, by the way. Statistics. I have to focus on the word. Statistics. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name's StepsBasic, and welcome to my community show. Whoa, that was beautiful, man. I gotta do more singing stuff. I'm a great singer. You know it. You love it. It's StepsBasic, the amazing singer. Anyway, enough fiction. Let's move on to our announcements for the day. Obviously, I beat Black Mesa and was able to jump into Doom Eternal, and man, am I having fun with that game, man. I tell you what, that game is awesome. It's got, demons, it's got destruction, it's got blood and guts and parkour. And the lore. Oh my god, I'm kind of intrigued. I love intriguing things. But apart from that, I don't really have any other announcements other than we are gearing up for Spooktober coming in a little more than a month. And for those of you who are new to the channel, that's where I switch gears and basically just move on to only horror games for an entire month. And I also have a little special thing I do. It's been different every year, but I think this year is going to be the same as last year, i.e. a story that I wrote, narrated and put on the channel for y'all to enjoy. But anyway, apart from all that, that's all for announcements. Let's move on to today's topic, statistics and why I don't like them. Now, don't get me wrong. I like statistics, but if you watch my last video, you'll note that I said specifically that I don't when applying them to people. And there's a very important reason why. And the most important reason is generalities. Generalities in general are generally wrong. I don't know if I've said that on the channel before, but that's one of my mottos for life. And specifically applied to people, we are all incredibly different, diverse thought, belief, etc. We are very different. And the reason I don't like statistics specifically when applied to people is that it's, wishy-washy at best. Now, don't get me wrong. Statistics are useful and can be interesting, but usually in the wrong hands, they're applied badly. So let's take a look at statistics just in general. Now, obviously, everybody's a statistic, whether or not they want to acknowledge it or whatnot. Everybody is a statistic. Now, whether or not they're the majority statistic or the minority statistic, they're still a statistic, because statistics are literally just numbers. And that is a really hard word to say if you've got a stutter, by the way. Statistics. I have to focus on the word. Statistics. But what was I saying? Oh, yeah, because that's all that statistics are. They are just numbers. They are where you fall within, the accepted, the norm, as it were. And there are outliers, but majority statistics are more or less true. That being said, that there is, like I said, it's a generality. So it's not going to apply in every case. And that's how statistics work. Additionally, some of them give you pointless information, or information that's like a well, duh information. Like, say, for instance, 100% of people born die. That isn't obvious. Everybody knows this. Now, what would be interesting if it was 99.99% people who are born die? Because then you're like, what's that other 0.01% doing that the rest of us aren't? Now, where it goes further into that is the other end, i.e., that's an obvious statistic, right? So if you were to look at it like the number one leading cause of death is heart disease. Now, that's an interesting statistic. So it's like, okay, so a majority of the people, even though everybody dies, a majority of the people who die of heart disease. Now, in general, you can apply that to your everyday life, i.e., do things that will contribute to decreasing your risk for heart disease. Knowing full well that heart disease is the number one killer, you can say, okay, I want to avoid that. So you're going to work towards avoiding that. Additionally, doctors can be more prone to looking for heart disease in death. Obvious issues, i.e., very obvious wounds in the body being a detractor. You can look at it and say, okay, percentage-wise, this person died from heart disease. Of course, then you start looking into other things when that one's proven wrong. So, yay. So that is a kind of useful statistic because you can apply it to your everyday life. Where we start getting a little hazy is more general statistics that can be misinterpreted. Like, for instance, a majority of CEOs in business are old white men, right? And so, therefore, you think that most white men are CEOs. No, that's not true. The problem is the misinterpretation of that statistic is that you're applying it backwards. All apples are fruit, but not all fruit are oranges. I said that wrong. All apples are fruit, but not all fruit are apples, right? A majority of CEOs are old white men, but not a majority of old white men are CEOs. And people will often misinterpret that as saying that all men tend to end up as a CEO, which is not true. On the contrary, actually, that is such a small minority of how most old white men end up as CEOs, because of the simple fact that that is such a small number of people. To apply it directly to the entire population of old white men is ridiculous, but people will often interpret it backwards. And that's one of the issues that I have with statistics is people who don't understand what they're looking at will interpret it the way they want. Additionally, another reason why I don't like to apply statistics is manipulation. Now, going back to the Parade article, which kind of spawned this whole thing, is talking about games for female gamers, right? Now, again, don't like the idea of selling games specifically to genders, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But that subset, like I said, like I brought up, was an interview. Like the lady who wrote the article interviewed people, asked people what their favorite games were. Now, she tried to get a response on Twitter, and that didn't go very far. Nope, not many people saw it. Not many people answered it. So it's on y'all now. Suck it up. Anyway, but the problem is when applying that number, those games, to the entirety of the female population makes it immediately wrong because of the fact that she interviewed a subset, specifically probably people she knew, and probably even herself, which immediately kind of skews it. Now, I'm not saying that she intentionally manipulated the data. In fact, I'm pretty sure she didn't. I'm pretty sure she tried to get as wide of an interview as possible, a wide selection as possible. But because of the fact that she failed in certain avenues, she had to, in essence, manipulate the data. Not so much, like I said, intentionally, but because she interviewed the people that she was close to, people she was around. I'm seriously doubting that she called up random ladies and said, hey, what's your favorite video game? Because, like I said, she tried to put it out on Twitter, but then nobody responded. And then, she had to go with what she had. Now, there are people who malevolently manipulate data, and I'm not saying that she did, obviously. I keep reiterating that because I don't want people to think that I am. But there are people who do malevolently manipulate data. And that is simply a matter of their own biases, wanting their own, confirmation bias. They have an answer and they're looking for people who agree. And so they can, by all rights, interview the people who are going to give them the proper answer. Additionally, interviewing 100 people in New York is going to give you a different answer than if you interviewed 100 people in Texas or 100 people in California or 100 people in Arizona. Heck, I would even go as far as to say if you interview 100 people in Douglas, Arizona, you're going to get different answers than if you interviewed 100 people in Bisbee, Arizona. I would even go a little bit further than that, but you're getting my point here. It's almost impossible to get a full, accurate statistic by interviewing just 100 people to represent the entirety of America, to represent the entirety of a state, to represent the entirety of a city. It starts to get really bad because, you're not getting accurate information. Now, that's one reason why I don't really like it. Now, I think that in a lot of ways, statistics helps in certain degrees, in certain areas, specifically advertising. Now, much like the young lady did in her article that everyone got upset about, a very benign article, and she had to take it down. Again, I'm guilt-tripping anyone who decided to bandwagon and hate on that lady for a simple, stupid, benign article. But anyway, what was I saying? Statistics can help in that. Now, how could she have used statistics to interpret that data? Well, first of all, she could have looked at purchases, which is getting into the advertisement range. Purchases made or downloads made by specific gender. 100 million women downloaded Overwatch, or whatever the first number one spot was on that. 79 million downloaded, etc., etc. You're getting my point. Now, of course, I'm using fictional numbers to represent my point here. But she could look at the statistics of the genders of people who downloaded the specific games. Additionally, she could look at the gender split between each of the game, i.e., Overwatch is a 50-50 split. Men and women both play it equally. So that would rank it a little bit lower, and she could do the math and figure things out. Statistics in advertising are incredibly helpful because they let you know where you're going to get the most money. Now, again, the way I feel about advertising should be you market towards the people who like your stuff, i.e., if you're making a horror game, market it towards people who like horror. Ba-da! But, additionally, the way things have changed throughout the years of advertising towards video games have been amazing. Like, it first started out advertising games as a family thing. Families get together, they play games, they have fun, laughing, ha ha ha. But then they noticed the numbers, the demographic was a majority of men play games, or a majority of boys play games. So they shifted the marketing towards boys because they knew where the money was. Boys are going to want to buy these. And then people started saying that was, sexist because girls do play games. And no, it's not so much. Yes, girls do play games, which is something I do want to say. Just because there's a boy in the ad doesn't mean a girl can't play it. And I've always felt this. And one of my favorite toys growing up was actually a Barbie doll, even though I got ridiculed pretty badly for playing with it and often stopped playing with it around other people. And it's the same thing I teach my daughter, Don't worry about what everyone's saying you need to play with. Play with what you want to play with. And I bought her everything she wanted. That's a lie. The things that I bought her were stuff that she wanted, not things that I thought she should want. You know what I mean? Making me over here sound like I'm spoiling my child by buying her everything she wants. I can't afford that nonsense, yo. But you can't fault the advertisers for targeting their advertisement towards the people who are most likely to buy. Now, additionally, you look at another faulty statistic. You look at what the representation of gamers are now. I think, if I remember correctly, it's 54 women to 46 men. It might be female to male, but I don't remember. But that statistic represents the whole of video games. You know what I mean? Now, if you were to look at it on a further breakdown, statistically, women are more likely to play mobile games. Stuff they can get on their phone and play and whatnot. And men are more likely to play console games. Again, if I remember correctly, I looked at these statistics like last week or something, and it's been a little while. But so advertisers are more likely to advertise mobile games to women and console games to men. And there is another divide, whereas obviously I don't agree because I think, again, advertise towards who's going to play it. And again, there's a divide because people are like, well, women play console games. Yes, they do. That's not what the statistic is saying. The statistic is saying more men play console games than women. It's not saying women don't play console games, because then it wouldn't be a statistic. It'd be a guarantee. But, people interpret what they want. And that was the same issue with the article. People interpreting the way they wanted. It's not saying you don't play these. It's just saying that a majority of women do play these, etc. You know what I mean? And that's why I don't like to apply statistics to people. I have rambled for almost 20 minutes here. I hope I have made something coherent. But I think I covered everything I wanted to talk about. Both the usefulness and why I don't like/do like statistics. Now, like I said, don't get me wrong. I find statistics to be intriguing and interesting, and it shows just a general, like, this is the feel of the thing, But hey, again, feel free to correct me on anything that you feel I may have misinterpreted. I don't mind. I like hearing other people's ideas and whatnot. And yeah, again, I made up one or two of those statistics, and the other ones I tried to remember, but I can't guarantee my memory was on point because my memory's been having issues lately. But anyway, that's going to be it for me for today. Thank you all so much for joining me for this episode of The Community Show. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and if you did, please go and poke that like button for me. If you'd like to see more from me, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And of course, as always, you are more than welcome to leave a comment down in the comment section down below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can, when I can, if I can, all that jazz. And tune in next time for another episode at another time. And until then, good night.